Now that we have assessed the learner's written production and set language learning targets, how can we address this in the classroom? Let's recap what we finished with in the previous video. We have identified that the learner would need to work on the areas listed on the left to be able to use more tenses and modal elements and identify spelling errors when proofreading their own work. In a minute, you will be asked to think about how you would support the learner towards these targets. Concretely, you will be prompted to think of at least one strategy per target that you could use. To help you with this task, you might wish to visit our Great Ideas pages and download and read our Classroom Guidance and Strategies to Support EAL Learners document, both sources of lots of tried and tested EAL strategies, ideas, and approaches. Thank you for considering what strategies could work for the learner. Here are some of our ideas. In order to teach new tenses and modal verbs, you will need to explicitly focus on grammar. This was descriptor D1. Here are 3 simple strategies that could help you achieve that goal. For the grammatical structure you wish to teach, for instance past progressive tense, for example were stealing or was going, provide learners with a modal text and ask them to highlight these structures in the text. You can of course model this process first before the learners do so themselves. Use writing frames to scaffold writing and to focus on grammatical structure. Another useful type of activity is cloze activities, where learners need to fill in the gaps to complete the sentences. The sentences would look like this. What's important to remember is that, unlike in most cloze activities, our focus here is on the language, not the content of the text. In this case, the gaps are always the past progressive and past simple verbs, as this is what we want to teach. The sentence is, the Romans were stealing many things that people owned. Finally, after teaching a new tense or structure to a learner, you can ask your learner to rewrite a sentence in a new tense. Look at the example. Learners are to rewrite the sentence provided, keeping the meaning as close to the original as possible, but they are to change it from the past simple tense to the past progressive tense. To help the learner, the verb in the past simple tense was provided. These ideas are based on or come directly from our Classroom Guidance and Strategies to Support EAL Learners document, as well as our Great Idea pages on focusing on grammar patterns, modeling, and darts, which are directed activities related to text. This very same document that we spoke about a minute or so ago. You can read and download these by clicking the icons in the bottom right of your screen now. Now let's look at how we could support the target D2 to do with proofreading skills. First of all, encourage the learner to identify their spelling errors by referring to a word bank you would have provided at the beginning of the topic. Learners can compare the spelling there and the same words as they wrote them in their own work. They can go through their work and correct as and when needed. Another idea, particularly where your learner is a bit more confident, is to write a number of spelling errors made, if any, in the margin next to every line. For example, if in a line there are 2 spelling errors, you would write the number 2 there. This way, you are alerting the learner to the fact that there are issues there, but it's up to them to carefully look at how they spelled each word to figure out which ones were incorrect and correct them. Please look at this example. You can see the number 1 written on 2 lines in the margin on the left. In the first instance, the word there was misspelled, and 3 lines down is the word animal, which is meant to be animal. In our sample, it seems that the teacher has corrected the errors, but using this approach, we would leave it to the learner to correct them themselves. There might be other activities that could be of use. Scanning activities. Learners find the keywords in a curriculum and highlight them. Filling in letters. Learners complete words by filling in letter or letters. This activity gives practice of letter formation and grapheme to phoneme awareness, that is to say, how letters are pronounced. This is particularly useful if you are to notice that your learner consistently misspells a combination of certain letters. For example, there, or here. Learners label a diagram, image, or set of images with the taught rehearsed words. As in one of our earlier ideas, a word bank can be provided for support. As previously, these ideas are also based or come directly from our classroom guidance and strategies to support EAL learners document, as well as our Great Idea page on early literacy word work. You can read and download these by clicking the icons in the bottom right of your screen now. Don't forget that we can use AI to help us save time creating some of the activities. One of the activities we just suggested was a gap fill. Let's see how we could create such a gap fill activity with the aid of ChatGPT to support the learning of past simple and past progressive tenses. First, let's give ChatGPT a prompt. Create a gap fill activity about ancient Rome for primary aged EAL learners. The gaps need to be verbs in past simple and past progressive tense. The result is this. ChatGPT also helpfully provided the list of the answers, which you can see on the right here. You can see that in the gap fill activity we've got the verbs in the brackets and they are to be replaced by the correct form of the verbs. This is all good, but there's an issue. None of the verbs in the answers list actually is a past progressive verb. For example, was building or were cooking. Let's give ChatGPT an additional prompt so that this initial output is improved. Our new prompt for ChatGPT is: none of the verbs so far is in past progressive tense. Please add some so there are at least 5 past progressive verbs in the gaps. Now you can see that the outcome is a bit better. That is, we've got were working and were cooking, but it seems that ChatGPT ignored the request to include 5 past progressive verbs in the gaps. This means we might need to edit them manually, but we've got a good and time-saving start here already.